Guys, I think Tiki looks a little bit different right now. Yeah, that looks a bit different, but also pretty exciting. Oh yes, update notif.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is probably the favorite time of my year, month rather, the update notification and the beginning of the next month, which of course comes with the refines and all the updates. So it's pretty exciting because the game is a live game and it always gets these updates and hopefully a time to basically create some excitement. As a content creator, it's exciting. Now, one thing I want to talk about here is this update notif doesn't confirm healer refines and doesn't confirm more celestial stones by the nature of sparking. Now, I sincerely hope that that information is somewhere hidden away in some sort of fed channel or some other copium that I am definitely drinking on, hoping that things like that happen, but I guess it's not for now. So I'm going to continue holding my fingers and hold them crossed, and hopefully that happens. Actually, to double down on this, I did take a look a bit, a little bit into researching how popular Sarah was, and she is actually like pretty popular when you consider Blazing Blade, like FE7. I believe she's like the 5th or 6th most popular FE7 character right now in Heroes, that is in Heroes. So I did underestimate Sarah in terms of popularity, and it did somewhat make sense that she did receive a resplendent once I looked into like the CYL voting and how popular she actually was in context of her game. So we're talking like Blazing Blade representation. It is a bit odd that like Florina isn't like a resplendent yet, for example. She's more popular, and still like Sakura should have maybe been a resplendent because she's a healer without a refine, and it's kind of weird. I'm still kind of hoping we get the refines, but yeah, it's not happening now, which is sad, and no confirmation of more celestial stones yet. Probably around anniversary or book 6, I expect that to happen, so I'm pretty stoked for that. So with that being said, let's talk about this update notif and what is coming. It's pretty exciting for me. It definitely affects me quite a bit. I'll talk about that in a moment. But before we do, smash the like button and sub. Always helps me out, guys. Seriously, just do it. It's right there. It's one click. Come on. All right. Let's do this. Update notif. So, as with all update notifs, they've come pretty standard now. A couple of quality life changes, refines, skill remixes on Legendary Heroes, and the Grails and AR and Ephemera. So, like the usual stuff we get out of these update notifs. Nothing big here, so I'm sure whatever is big is coming in some sort of fed channel, of course. First up is Legendary Marth getting his remix, and he's going to get a weapon refine. We don't know anything about that yet, but it's coming. So Marth doesn't actually get a new skill like for inheritance, which is kind of odd, I guess, because all the other legendaries got like a new skill to fodder. Marth actually doesn't get an upgrade to his fodder. So sorry guys if you were just holding on to Marth hoping that would happen. But he does get 2 upgrades. He gets a Shining Emblem, basically copy-paste off of Brave Marth, and a Binding Shield 2 upgrade, which makes him a substantially better legendary. So I'm going to have to like go review old legendaries again after all this is said and done, because someone like Legendary Ephraim is obviously way better, and honestly, this is solid. Now, the reason this is so good, and potentially even better for someone like Marth than it is for even like Legendary Marth over Brave Marth, is because at the start of turn, this just gives him 6 to all stats as long as he's within his range of his allies. Now, that might not seem that great, but then you realize that Exalted Falchion is a bonus doubler weapon. So he's basically doubling down on the stats that he gives himself, and if I was to even take an initial guess here on what Exalted Falchion might end up being, it could be slaying, it could just give him extra stats on top of that. So Marth is about to go like really high in terms of this special and just where he's going to become in terms of power level. But that's not all, because Binding Shield 2 has to be one of the more stacked B skills I've seen in a while. So it still retains the I will completely dominate all dragons in the game aspect, where it's like you can't retaliate, I get an auto double, you can't even double me back effect. That's cool and all, but on top of that, as long as Legendary Marth is faster by 5 points over other units, he gets to do the same thing to everyone in the game. So literally everyone is subject to Binding Shield's Tyranny, which is you can't retaliate, you can't double, I get to double, which is like really good. And the only real counterplay to that is like some combination of just outspeeding him or running like null follow-up and null seed disrupt against Legendary Marth if he happens to outspeed you. So this is really powerful. That is really good considering his weapon, and I'm sure his weapon synergy will make good use of that, especially if it ends up having slaying, where it'll bring his special down to 1 charge, just like Brave Marth. I'm really impressed with Marth, and on top of that, with our dual infantry, or he does score as a 180, which makes him even better than Roy, lol. And and yeah, it's just good for amount of stats that he's going to be stacking, and he gets to buff all his allies on top of that. So Marth fans, pretty good. It's pretty good. If you're a Marth fan, it's a good place to be. Now, if anyone's been watching me long enough, you know that Tiki is an important aspect of my experience in Feb, because my 3 legendaries that I've merged up are Fjorm, Tiki, and hopefully soon Corrin to be +10. So Tiki is a very important aspect to my Feb experience, and that's why I've been really deeply anticipating this. So there is going to be a little bit of connection to this one and some bias probably, but I'll let you guys know what I think out of using Tiki. So first of all, she got a Slick Fighter 3 as an inheritable skill, so that's great for you Tiki people that want to throw her away. Shame on you, but Slick Fighter 3 is good fodder, and it's good to have it as more options. I was hoping she would get attack speed ideal 4, because I think that actually synergizes better with her C skill, but Slick Fighter 3 is probably about second best, because I realize if I want to use her in AR, for example, that's the best like B skill to use, because it removes all penalties, and then you can be free to use something else like Kestrel Stance 3 or Mirror Stance 3 or something with guard in the A slot and get a lot of value out of that. So I was hoping she would be more geared towards being used in Arena over AR, but once I've actually seen what With Everyone 2 does, well, she might very well end up being a pretty solid choice for AR, and I'll explain why. So Slick Fighter helps with neutralizing penalties. It's great to use on armors. This is a very strong version of essentially Far Save. So Far Save gave 2 stats and buffed, like for example, AR Far Save, I believe it's the only one, gives like attack and res 4, right? But this is a With Everyone Far Save, so it gives 4 to all stats, and the speed portion of this and the defense and the attack and all that combined together really does give you a lot of stats, but on top of that is self-reliant on buffing, so you don't have to waste any sort of skills buffing let's say links or tactics. You can save like one of those slots on one of your allies and then provide more buffs for Tiki as a result of that. Tiki was already a high BST unit, already really high stat weight, but she suffered from the traditional dragon armor weakness, which is being a dragon armor. So you run into Julia's and Erica, Brave Ericas, and all the other armor and dragon hate you stuff you'll see in both Arena and AR, and it begins to become pretty oppressive. However, the beauty is that the current AR meta is very like anti-Hector, anti-Fallen Edelgard, anti-Brave Edelgard, I guess, just mostly like melee type of tanks, and the counter to that was like Windsweep. Windsweep, thankfully, doesn't affect Tiki or dragons in general, which is why I actually consider them to be rising in usage. Someone like Noe is actually pretty solid of a sleeper unit right now, just because if you run into like something like Selena, like who cares? You run into like Legendary Sigurd, who cares? You run into like Dual Lift, Noe does that fine. Like these are all of a sudden, like one of these older units is a bit better now, but is kind of not used just because she's older, and I guess people forgot, and she definitely wasn't usable, let's say in like the Thrasier meta, where of course that's just a hard counter. But Thrasier hasn't kept up with a bunch of these like stat improvements and refinements and whatnot, so you can actually like use stuff like Dragon Wall and just not, you can shrug it off, or you could use null follow-up and all these other really cool things. Now, it's exciting because I know that even a Legendary Tiki AR season is coming, where I literally can use something like that very soon. And yes, I'm holding on to my second Florid to even give it to Tiki, bump her up with these skills, and have a good time. I'm not even joking. This actually seems quite usable, quite fun to use. and I'm going to consider it highly, actually. One of the biggest problems will still be that Armor Dragon 1 movement problem, but that's still a lot of stats. This is a bonus unit, triple mythic blessed summoner supported Tiki that you can combine with other units because of her far save mechanic to stat stack her into oblivion. So I'm going to definitely play with this idea depending on what Divine Mist's weapon refine ends up being, because that's still due to be found out, and I'll report back on where I feel Tiki is, because honestly she is bottom tier, worst legendary right now, and these improvements hopefully bring her up to viability, because I've been using Fjorm lately, and she's been pretty good for me. Like, she's been super solid, consistent. So if I can bring back another one of my legendaries into relevancy, I'm going to be pretty happy with that. That's pretty much my take on Tiki for now. When Divine Mist happens, I'm going to be excited to see that. One thing I haven't mentioned is for her arena viability just off of with everyone alone, you can do things. In my case, I can use like Linja, snipe some units, and then protect Linja with Tiki's far save effect. That is also potentially cool. Tiki herself does pretty okay, I would say, against stuff like Linja or even Byleth, if you incorporate the guard mechanic of, let's say, Kestrel Stance or Mirror Stance 3 to deny a Ruptured Sky. She will actually be fine against them because, again, not affected by Wind Sweep. And that is kind of a nice benefit of using something like Tiki in Arena that I look forward to trying and seeing if I can give her a shot. It's a good time to be a Tiki fan, and with Divine Mist, I'm pretty stoked to see what they do. But again, I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed and report back with you guys on where I feel Tiki stands. But it is exciting, and I can't believe I'm actually saying that an Armor Dragon might very well be viable. Goes to show you how much the game changes. So next up is the Ephemeras and Weapon Refineries. We kind of knew that the Legendaries were going to get their Weapon Refines. Tiki, Marth, Hector, makes complete sense. Then we have a couple of the other ones that were still mostly expected. So we have Kaze as a 4-star. Summer Tana was next on the seasonal preference. Weapons, Kliff, sure. Helbindi, sure. Book 2. Now the shocker there is probably Linus, who in my opinion was not expected because he technically already had a preference weapon, but apparently he didn't. So apparently that was Raven's weapon, and that wasn't really Linus's weapon. So okay, that does mean that they may use this as a sort of precedent to give units who have identical weapons different variations of it. For example, Reinhardt and Owen share Dire Thunder, but IS could very easily just create a second variation of Dire Thunder for Owen and one for Reinhardt, or that they both share one and then Owen gets a different version. They definitely could do that. Like, this is Linus there getting that Fanged Basilios is a interesting precedent, and of course Linus fans are going to be happy with that. That definitely will bring him into more relevancy because Raven has a Resplendent and he technically was the better user of that weapon. So now he's going to be brought back because that weapon is exclusive to him. So that's cool. Into Ephemeras though, these are also really solid. Mostly the fact that first of all, there for free is a free low attack speed, and low attack speed is still a very, if not one of the better B skills to use on many characters, especially on AR defense. So I'm pretty happy to pick up that. Thank you so much. Corrin is another case of rally attack speed plus, which unfortunately we've gotten so many of these, and linking into a rally attack speed is also a pain in the butt because it's not in the 3 and 4-star pool. It's basically on other 5 stars, and to get to it, to get more fodder, you would need to have one of those. For example, like S America has rally attack speed. You'd have to fodder that, and then Corrin, and then you'd pick up extra fodder, which I think she has like attack speed bond, I believe. So that's not that exciting anyways, but it's something to always consider. Another thing to consider, with all this, is that Corrin herself might be due for a refine as well soon-ish. So you may want to hold on to like that Ephemera to see what that is before you even consider foddering her if you wanted to +1 her, for example. In terms of the 4 stars, the only like notable one there would be Zealot, who I think has Love Candabra, and that one is good for supporting as an axe user. Something like Cowlick or Ninja Hannah or Flame Emperor could definitely make good use of that to help your other characters. secure kills. All right, so final updates here, as expected, is basically the AR building upgrade, bringing healing tower up to 9. That's pretty good because I think it'll heal like 45 or 50. I've lost track at this point, but it's a pretty high number now that can basically heal your team to full. On defense, that's especially good. On offense, not so much because you don't really want to clog up your buildings on offense. We have an Mjolnir Strike upgrade. Who cares? Because I literally have 10,000 stones, and who cares? So, and finally we have Nana and some red tome infantry guy that nobody cares about, but Nana's pretty cool. So that pretty much sums up the update notif. Guys, I am super excited for the fact that Tiki's getting upgraded. Marth fans should also be pretty happy. Hector can get a lot better. Osteopulse 2 is solid. I didn't really touch on that too much when it happened, but it is really good as well. So legendaries are in a good spot. Basically all of them have been massively improved for being old. And anyone that's a Roy fan is probably crying right now, but hopefully he gets his time sooner than later, being the first pair-up guy. We have Legendary Azura coming up soon, one of the final old school legendaries, and I'm not sure if we should be excited for a Grey Waves upgrade because that could go crazy either way. I'll be back soon, probably with the Legendary Hero trailer, and then I'm really excited to see what happens to Tiki, make use of her, and maybe share some gameplay with you guys. I can't even contain myself. As for no healer refines, yeah, I'm pretty sad. I hope it happens one day. And hopefully more Celestial Stones do hit we get more sparks. I hope that happens because, I mean, how are you supposed to get 20 in between now and May? Not sure. So feel like that's somewhere in the anniversary time or book 6. Let's find out. All right, guys, I'm done here for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for partaking in this content. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for doing what you do. Smash the like button. So if you haven't already. If you love me or my content, Patreon in the description below. Check it out. Love you all. See you next one. Peace.
It's over.